All right, guys, my biggest sale of the year is happening right now. Black Friday 2024 is here, and on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find my templates and courses at up to 38% off. Yes, that's right. So all templates are 35% off, including add-ons. Both my courses, Podcast Success Blueprint and Book.Designer, are 15% off, which is the biggest savings I've ever done in these courses. Plus, there are 4 new add-on templates that just launched. 2 of them actually are add-on templates I've literally never seen anyone offer in Show It templates or other template types for that matter. And for the first time ever, I'm offering a Save Now, Choose Later option on full site templates. So you can get that 35% off deal right now, but pick your template next year. So no rush. Get the deal and just enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday and pick your site later. And lastly, there are 3 different bundle options to help you save even more, including a bundle where you can get both of my courses together at 20% off. Again, I've never done a discount like this before. So there's more to it than that, but you can get all the info at elizabethmccravey.com/BF, short for Black Friday, and the link is in the show notes. This sale ends on December 3rd, so shop while you can. That's elizabethmccravey.com/BF. Routines, habits, focus, time management, all of these things are such a key to running a successful business. And I've got plenty of habits that I've developed over 9 years in business that contribute to my business doing well. So I went from someone who worked with Friends on in the background on my TV or Crime Junkie playing in my corded headphones while working in the first months of my business to someone who now really dials in what I'm working on. I batch task well, and I get done what I used to get done in a week, done in like 2 days. So in this episode, I just want to explore with you 6 different kind of routines, habits, just ways of running my business that help me manage my business really well that you can carry on into your own life and apply it to your business as well. So let's dive into it. Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, an online educator for entrepreneurs, website designer, wife, boy mom, and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want to dive deep into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a sustainable business that fits your unique lifestyle while standing out in a crowd, then you are in the right place. I created a multiple 6-figure a year business in my early 20s, and now in my 30s, I'm still running that successful multiple 6-figure a year business on just part-time hours now as a working mom. I'm here to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe that the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, website design, personal branding, mindset, time management as a busy parent, scalable and passive income, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. So if you're listening to this episode live, I just want to say right now my Black Friday sale is happening. I'm not actually talking about the sale in this episode because I was thinking about you, and you're probably like kind of in travel mode, maybe in family mode, maybe in hosting mode as you celebrate Thanksgiving if you're listening to this live. And so I was like, you probably will enjoy just a simple, more lifestyle-based episode this week. So that's what this is for you. But I do want to say if you want information on my sale, all the info's at elizabethmccravey.com/BF, and the details are in the show notes, and the sale is incredible. It's going through December 3rd. So go shop it. Okay, now let me get to the content though on this fun episode. So I want to give you a little context as we get started to tell you where I am in the season of life so you can know where I am and take what works for you and apply it to your own life situation, knowing that your situation and experience and all the things is probably really different from mine. And it's so crazy. As I become a parent while running my business, I feel like in my own life, my quote unquote season, as in like what's going on and my goals in my business are constantly changing, even on like a every few months basis versus at one point where it felt like things were changing more on a yearly basis. So maybe you can relate to that. But for me right now, like 2 days as I'm recording this, I currently have 2 full work days a week, plus 1 more work day-ish, kind of divided between like 2 half days. And besides that, I'm mainly with my kids, which is such a huge priority for me in this season. I have 2 little boys, an 8-month-old, which I cannot believe he's already 8 months, and then a 3-year-old. And I also, just so you know, have had my business a long time. So I had my business back when I had much less on my plate, before I was a mom, again, around 9 years ago. And a lot of what worked for me without kids and with a smaller business actually still works well for me today. That's a cool thing. When I was looking through this list, I was like, oh yeah, like a lot of the stuff that I started doing when my life and business felt less full, and they helped me run my business really well then. And now it helps me run my business well as a busy mom. So anyway, these are some things that work for me now. And now you know the context for my season and all of that. But these are also things that have served me well in other seasons of life. So no particular order, let's get to it. So first one, something that is a habit that helps me manage my business well. Knowing what I'm going to work on that day before I sit down at my desk to work. So you heard me say I only have 2 days with childcare to work on my business, which means I'm going to be highly, highly, highly strategic with my time. Whereas again, this is something that like I've developed over the years of my business. And I truly think I've become more productive since becoming a mom. It's not always easy for that to be true, but I do think I have, because I've just learned how to manage my time better, because I am trying to fit in like 5 days of work into more like 2 days. So how well I plan out what I'm going to work on depends on that particular day and what all is going on that day. And so I kind of play it by ear how detailed I get. And I'll kind of explain. I have 3 different potential ways I do this, and you feel free to steal any of them that makes sense for you. I'll share that at the end of this point. But it depends on if I'm in a busy season or not and what's going on that particular day. So there was a time in my life, and some of you guys who are longtime podcast listeners or have gone back and listened to old episodes have heard me talk about this. But there was a time when I put everything I'm going to do hour by hour on a digital calendar for the whole week, Monday through Friday, even some stuff on Saturday, Sunday. I put it on the calendar, and I've done multiple podcast episodes on this. Episode 46 is the first one. If you want to go back and listen to it again, super, super popular episode. People love that one. And I will admit though, I'm in a different season of life. That was episode 46 of the podcast. That was a long time ago for me. And that method does not work great with small children and without full-time childcare. I would even say with small children in general. I mean, it doesn't necessarily work great. But I actually do this method sometimes just on a day-by-day basis, not necessarily like the whole week, every second. Obviously, on the days when I'm just staying home with my kids, I'm not planning things hour by hour. That would feel hilarious to me to try to do that, and completely unnecessary. But I expect myself to have more flexibility as I do this method. So let me explain. For example, today, I actually did this method. I planned the whole workday, hour by hour, up until the afternoon. I just kind of left some blank spots to kind of like feel out what I wanted to do and what needed to be done the rest of the day. But generally, I planned it out hour by hour based on when our nanny would be here, and then my older son would be in preschool. So she's here today 10 to 4:30, and today's a Monday as I'm recording this, and I did this planning Sunday afternoon during my kids' overlapping nap time. So right now, Ethan naps twice a day, Colin naps once a day, and their second nap overlaps for like an hour. So during that hour, Adam was actually working because he sees some of his counseling clients on Sundays. So I was home with the kids, and I spent about 30 minutes kind of doing this and planning. What I did yesterday was planning not only today, but also planning what Wednesday is going to look like, and then also how I'm going to do some particular things on Tuesday and Thursday. So this has worked really well so far today. I've actually generally stuck to the schedule, which is really awesome. Last week, though, I did the same thing. Of Sunday, I made the plan. Monday, I'm like, yes, I'm ready to rock. It's a busy season right now for me with Black Friday coming up. And on that day, it didn't go so well. So on that day, as soon as the morning started, my husband Adam is sick. He had food poisoning. He was staying home from work. So I had to take my preschooler Colin to school with my baby in tow. We got to school way later than we normally drop Colin off. And then our nanny was late as well. And I was also trying to help take care of Adam all day while not like letting him be around the nanny so that she doesn't get sick. So anyway, my entire workday started an entire hour later than my schedule said it should. And my day also had bigger and longer interruptions than usual. And the workday ended earlier. So it was just like a very different day. And so the whole schedule that I made kind of had to get thrown around a little bit. And there were some some things I did not get done that had to get moved to another day. So you just got to expect it to not go to plan and just roll with it when it doesn't. And one thing I do when I do that sort of like more intense planning structure, I leave blank chunks throughout the schedule for like 15 minutes, 30 minutes and things like that, just to accommodate for this, to accommodate for when I go downstairs. Just now, I actually just spent 20 minutes downstairs with my baby and our nanny, just hanging out for a little bit. Like I leave space for that. I leave space for tasks to take longer than I think it will. I leave space for just like some personal time to go on a walk and take a break, which I'm going to talk about later on this episode. But basically I plan for the schedule to not work, but then doing this helps me realistically see how much I can fit in a day that goes according to plan. And then I'm able to really maximize these 2 full work days. So anyway, I just told you the main way that I prefer to do it, which is putting it on a calendar, but that's what's working for me right now, like today with an 8-month-old and a 3-year-old. But there are other ways that also work well for me in different seasons. So there are 3 different ways where I'm doing one of these 3 things each workday. So one is, like I just said, on an actual digital calendar, which episode 46 of this podcast explains the exact method of doing that. Second way is in a physical planner, and I use the Full Focus Planner. You can go to elizabethmccravey.com/full-focus to get a discount and info on that planner. I absolutely love it. But when I do that, I'm writing out a list of like what I'm doing, and then I might use the calendar structure and notes section to like put some extra stuff. So that's another way I do it. And the third way, that's the most simple version, is I have an app that is a free iPhone and Mac, and I'm sure Android, all the things app, but I have it synced up on my phone and on my computer, but it's called Todoist. So that's then do IST. And I've used this app for years. My husband, literally everything lives in it for him. Like this is his complete project management system for his business even and his work. So I know that's a lot of different ways. And you might be like, wait, what? And I share that with you to say that I do this differently depending on the day and the season I'm in, because that's truly how I do it. And when I really looked at like, okay, what are things that help me run my business well? This is one of the biggest ones, but it changes. And so I hope this shows you that it doesn't have to be like one thing you always do all the time, no matter what. It doesn't have to be that like every Monday you do this thing in your business. Every day you schedule the whole thing on the calendar. Like it can be something that you adapt to the season you're in and even to that particular day. So just as a quick example, when my son Ethan, my youngest, when he was 4 months old and I was starting up work again and taking tons of breaks throughout the day to be with him, there was no way I was going to put a schedule on my calendar. That would have felt impossible and silly to me and unnecessary. I was just making a list. At that point, I was definitely using Todoist. And just as I was going about the day before, I'm like, oh yeah, tomorrow when I have some childcare, I'm going to like work on this thing, put it in the app. You know, it just completely changes based on the season you're in. So I talked about that one longer than I'll talk about some of these other ones, but that's the first one, knowing when I'm going to work on that day before I sit down to work. Okay, the second routine habit that helps me manage my business well, working on what sounds exciting to me when possible. So too often when we talk about business, we talk about it like it's just such a hustle, such a grind. You just got to toughen up and do hard things, whether you like it or not. And it's almost like it has to be that way all the time is how sometimes I feel like people talk about this. But for me, I really want to enjoy my business, and I actually do really enjoy my business. And there's plenty of things I don't like doing. So I want to just be clear on that. There's plenty of things I have to do as a business owner that I don't like. But there are a ton of things I enjoy doing, like recording this podcast. I just spoke at a conference last month for Show It, and I enjoyed doing that speaking engagement. I enjoy creating social media content, but so much of that is when I'm in the mood for it. So I think a big key for me is to look at what I need to do and then try as much as possible to follow my creative intuition for when I do what. And I know that sounds really opposite of number one. That's actually why I included it right after, so I can explain that they're actually not as opposite as it sounds. But it's really just about like planning around my energy for the week and for that day. So for example, if in the week I'm looking ahead and be like, okay, this week, here's kind of what needs to happen in the business. Let's say one thing is I need to record 2 podcast episodes. And I also need to do time just like behind my computer, strategizing and planning my Black Friday sale, which is now happening, right? That's so fun. Go shop it if you're listening live. But I try to do the task when I feel like it to some extent. So like I might feel in the mood for recording a podcast episode, or I might feel like, hey, I'm really tired. I didn't sleep well last night. My energy's kind of drained. I don't feel like I'm going to bring the energy I want to an episode. If so, I'm going to be like, okay, let me try to move this to another day. So sometimes this isn't possible, like when you have deadlines outside of your own control, like a client project, or for me recently, it was like I had to have my presentation for the Spark conference I spoke at done by a certain point. And so it was like, okay, Elizabeth, today, whether you're inspired to work on this or not, you have to, because it's becoming due, right? So you can do this to some extent, but not always. But I do this again, even if it's just reordering the day to kind of work on things when I want to, or holding plans loosely. So like even right now, as I'm recording this episode, it is 1:30 on a Monday afternoon, and I had put this on my calendar, but I'd put it as record podcast ? Because I was thinking, I might end up feeling like I don't want to do that this afternoon. And something that's really important to me as a podcaster is recording episodes when I feel up for it, because I think I bring you better content when I do that. So I try to never record episodes when I'm feeling like, oh, this feels like something I'm not ready to do right now, or I don't have the energy for it, or my voice is hurting or something like that. So I try to plan that well. And today I was like, okay, it got to be close to time to record. And I was like, yeah, that's on the calendar. I have another meeting at 2:30. I have time to fit this in. I don't have anything else super pressing right now. Let's do it. Let's record the episode. And then I had an option too for it to happen on Wednesday this week. So anyway, I think this can be really helpful to help you as you think about your own business to manage your business well, right? Because you're going to show up better and do better work when you're working on things that inspire you and excite you at that moment. Okay, third thing. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. This is a big one, just for growing a business, but knowing when I'm testing something, if it's a good use of my time, and when I decide it's not, I stop doing it. So I work on very limited time, as you kind of heard when I explained my season of life, but that means there's a tons of things I don't do in my business that I could probably do and probably grow more if I wanted to do them, like spending more time on specific new marketing strategies or creating more products or whatever else. But you have to know your own priorities. And for me right now, I'm choosing to prioritize being home with my kids because that's what's really important to me and something I want while they're little. Not to say that's right for everyone. That's what's right for me right now. And so when I look at tasks in my business, I have to decide, is this a good use of my time? And so whenever I'm testing something, I know that I'm looking for that answer. Does this make sense for my business right now in this season? And the cool thing about this question of asking, does it make sense for your season right now, for your business, your season, your business being a keyword, is it eliminates all the shoulds and it works for her type of mentality that we get into so often as business owners, because something that works for someone else or something you feel like you should do or might work or should work does not mean that you should do it. For example, maybe you've thought about creating a course. You have a course idea. You feel like you do a good job at it. You think it would make money. You see other people launching courses and they're doing well, that does not mean it's a good use of your time for your business in your season. Just because it's a good thing doesn't mean it's good for you right now. Hope that makes sense. That makes sense in my head. But that's something I think about a lot. So since my business is lean, when I do try something new, I really track the ROI on it instead of just assuming it'll be worth it because it's supposed to be worth it. Because just because it's worth it to someone else does not mean it's worth it to me and my business for my audience with my offers, my season of life. And so when I see that's not worth it, I cut things that don't make sense to do. And with this as well, I think it's really important to not focus on what everyone else is doing, as hard as that is sometimes, but just focus on what makes sense for your family, your life, that day, that week, etc. And then let the rest go. And know that like something can be a really good thing and you can still not do it. And that's so true. Like I think about this for businesses who intentionally choose not to be on Instagram. They are not saying that they think that Instagram is bad for business. They're saying that they are choosing not to prioritize that for their business, but that doesn't mean that you can't prioritize it for yours, right? It's all about what your unique business needs. So this is really another way I could phrase this number 3 one is just like knowing my business's uniqueness and my life's uniqueness and not trying to like cookie cutter my way into like, you have to do this because it's a good thing, but instead really asking, does this make sense for my life? Does this make sense for my time? Is this worth it to me? Do I enjoy this before I just keep doing something? And really trying to ask that question consistently as well. And as you're listening to this episode, if you're listening live, right now is a great time of year to do that, right? As we are starting to head towards a new year, really evaluate what are you doing in your business? What are you spending time on? And are there other things that would be a better use of your time? Are there things you want to add in? Are there things you need to delete? Asking yourself those questions can really help you grow a successful and sustainable business. Okay, the 4th daily routine habit that helps me manage my business well, praying about my business and prayer in general about life. But I say about business as we're talking about business things here, but I think this is huge. And I do spend a lot of time talking to God. And it's not even necessarily that I'm just sitting there praying or like open my Bible every time I'm doing this, but talking to God about my business, his plans for it, and praying for wisdom in my business decisions. And this has been so huge for me, particularly in this year of 2024, because I do feel like I've made a lot of business pivots behind the scenes since having another child, a lot of stuff that is still pivoting and you won't even really see until 2025. But this is something that's really important to me. And I do think is a huge key to my business's success, is being faith focused and asking God for guidance in my business. And so I want to say too, as you think about praying your business, talking to God does not have to look like a full-on, beautiful, quiet time at 5 a.m. before your kids wake up in a perfectly quiet house with your coffee and a lit candle. It is wonderful if it does look like that. And I would say congrats to you. And I need to know all your secrets because that sounds great. But for me, I actually don't do that right now. I'm in a season where both my kids are waking up way too early. And we just had daylight savings, which caused them to wake up even earlier. So that's fun. And I'm still getting up around 1 time a night with our 8-month-old because he's not really sleeping through the night except for every now and then. So my kids are my alarm clock. I legitimately do not set an alarm clock. Like I don't know the last time I did. I just don't do it. I don't need one. They wake me up too early. So that's when I wake up. And while I would love to wake up at 5 a.m. and have like, an hour or so to myself in a quiet house, that's just not my reality in this season. And I know I could set my alarm earlier and wake up earlier than my kids, but I don't want to do that. I want to focus on sleep. So I'm okay with that. And so I think too, when we think about like what our spiritual life looks like in seasons where maybe you are waking up earlier and you have less time to yourself for whatever reason, whether it's children or something else, there's so many things that can cause that to be true in your life. But it's about your expectations. And I think your expectations in the morning is a real thing. And so for me right now, I don't wake up being like, oh, I'm so sad that my morning doesn't look this particular way. I'm like, no, I'm really grateful to be up with my kids and we're all just hanging out and this is what I'm doing right now. And when I feel ready, I'm going to start waking up earlier when I know they're going to get to a time that even makes sense for me. And I might do that when I can, maybe not getting up in the night as much and that sort of thing. Like I know that's coming. So my quiet time looks different. Again, this almost feels like 2 tips in one. So praying about your business and also maybe being okay with your morning routine, whatever it is kind of what I'm saying here. But all that to say, I usually don't get a morning quiet time, but that doesn't mean that you can't have an active faith life and an active prayer life around your business and everything else in your life. Risen Motherhood is a podcast, multiple books. They just had a new book come out called Gospel Mom that I'm absolutely loving. But one thing I've heard them say so many times is that the little years don't have to be the lost years when it comes to your faith, which is something I think a lot of young moms think, and when I say young moms, I mean moms to young children, but you feel like because your life is often more crazy and busy and you're just so caretaking other kids, that's a time where just spiritual growth doesn't happen, because how are you supposed to fit that in? So anyway, I can actually link in the show notes to some episodes of their podcast they've done on this topic, because I think it's really helpful. But that's something I just want to say, praying about my business and fitting it in where it makes sense, even in this season of life. Okay, number 5. Leaving my laptop in my office versus bringing it around the house with me to different rooms and working kind of whenever, wherever. So I have a home office on our 3rd floor, and I'm really grateful for that. That probably won't always be true for me, but right now I have a nice home office, and I really do quote unquote leave work at the office because I don't typically take my laptop downstairs unless it is to leave the house to like go work somewhere else, or maybe after the kids' bedtimes or during nap time if I'm staying home with them that day to maybe work a little or like do some online shopping or something, because I'm very much a millennial who wants to shop on my laptop. So something like that. But I think this helps with the ever evasive concept of work-life balance or work-life harmony, because I'm not just like at the kitchen table randomly working while the kids are playing or something like that. I'm trying to focus work time on work time. And again, I know there are seasons of hustle. I just want to say that. That's why I said at the beginning of this episode to like know that my season might be different than yours. But I think there are seasons of hustle in our business. And I've been there where you're working a lot after the kids are asleep or before they're awake. And if that's you, go you. You've got this. I have days where I need to do that too to get things done. Like right now, actually, I'm recording this a few weeks before you'll hear it. And as I gear up for Black Friday, I've already planned in my mind that I'm going to have some after bedtime for the kids' work nights. And I've told my husband that too, of like, hey, this is something that I've got to prioritize right now. And I think that's even helpful, right? Of like telling yourself and telling your family when that's going to be the case. But I guess what I'm saying here with that is to be intentional about it. So if you are going to work after bedtime, great, be intentional. Know what you're working on, know why you're working on it. Don't just work at night because you're bored and you like don't want to fall asleep and it's almost like you're doom scrolling, but it's doom working, right? And so I think for me, leaving my laptop on that 3rd floor really helps me do that, especially since I often feel like I don't feel like walking up 3 flights of stairs just to get it for something random. So when I do get it, I'm like, okay, I'm really going to like be working on something intentionally right now. All right. And the final one, not sitting at my desk all day. Simple as that. I really do believe that successful people move their bodies, get up, exercise, and that you're not going to have a productive day just sitting behind the desk the entire day for hours on end without getting up, without looking away from your computer. Your productivity goes down as you do that. You need change of scenery and you need to get up and move. So maybe for you, it's like a break to play some pickleball or going a long walk with your kids or going to lift weights or do a spin class, whatever it is, going on a walk alone. I like to do a lot of different things personally, but one thing that I think keeps me sane on like a long work day when I do have childcare is getting up and walking around outside of my house, weather permitting, for like 10 minutes. Or if it is like too cold that day or rainy or whatever it is, just getting up from my desk and moving around my house in some way. Like maybe it's that like I take a 10-minute break to straighten up my bedroom or like hang up all the clothes that are on the floor of the closet, like that kind of thing. I think is just really, really helpful and helps me manage my business well, because then when I come back and sit at my desk, I feel refreshed and ready to keep accomplishing the task. And I think for me, like I don't have some sort of system of like every 2 hours I get up and move or something like that. But I just kind of can tell in myself, like when I start to hit a point where I'm like, ooh, I need a break. My brain's not working as good anymore. I'm not feeling as productive anymore. I'm going to get up from my desk, walk downstairs, go outside, walk around the block for 10 minutes, come back. And it always is such a good refresh. I often put my AirPods in and don't listen to anything at all because, again, I'm not necessarily looking for podcasting or audiobook time. Or even like a FaceTime with someone. I'm just looking for like a moment of silence to kind of refresh and reset. So it is good for my productivity to take a break and do laundry or to walk around outside. So I just think this is a big one of not sitting at my desk all day. And for you, not sitting at your desk all day, but getting up and getting moving. So let me walk through those daily routines and habits again that help me manage my business well. And I hope as I read this that you can think about these and be like, okay, these are the things that work well for Elizabeth. Which of these things do you want to implement and try for your own life? And maybe which of these things are you already doing, but you can maybe like spice up a bit and do differently. Just as I read over them again, I want you to think about your own ideas for this. Okay, so these are the things that work for me. Knowing what I'm going to work on that day before I sit down to work. And remember, I talked about 3 different ways I'm doing that, kind of depending on the day. 2, working on what sounds exciting to me when possible to keep inspiration fresh and make my stuff I'm creating better. 3, knowing when I'm testing something, if it's a quote unquote good use of my time. And if I decide it's not, I stop doing it. 4, praying over my business, and prayer being like a really big part of my life, and focusing on spiritual growth, even in a busy season with little kids. 5, leaving my laptop in my office versus bringing it around the house with me. And then 6, not sitting at my desk all day, but getting up and taking breaks. Okay, so that is it. And let me know. I'd love to hear from you on Instagram. Like, send me a message or shoot me an email. Tell me like which of these things you're going to try out, which things you already do yourself. I'd love to hear from you. And again, if you're listening live, take a break from whatever you're doing and go to elizabethmccravey.com/BF, short for Black Friday. And you can see all the Black Friday deals there. It's such a good sale this year. I'm really, really thrilled about it. So hope you enjoy shopping that. And I'll be back next week with actually the Christmas episode. So if you're excited for that, my annual Christmas episode, I'm recording a new one this year, and then we'll also air the one from last year. So those are coming next Tuesday. All right, bye for now. Hey, thank you for listening to the podcast all the way to the end. I appreciate you being here. And if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to invite you to check out my website template shop too. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find Show It website templates that are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you make more money from your website. Maybe your current website is really boring, maybe it's a challenge to update, and maybe it's even the thing you feel like is holding your business back. Your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers, and that's exactly what my templates do. These templates are designed to be SEO friendly on the back end, not just pretty, and also strategic with all the strategies I teach on this show, and they are easy for you to set up all by yourself. So shop them at elizabethmccravey.com/shop and come join thousands of happy customers using these templates. And as an added perk, you can use the code BBPodcast at checkout to get 10% off your template as a thank you for being part of the podcast fam. Again, that's BB Podcast for 10% off any template over on elizabethmccravey.com. Also, if you loved this episode, leaving a rating and review for the show on wherever you're listening or sharing it with a friend is a great way to support this podcast. Thank you again for listening, and I'll be back next week with a new episode. Hey, real quick while I have you at the end of this episode, my 2024 Black Friday sale is happening right now. This is my biggest sale of the year with some of the biggest discounts I've ever done on my products and with savings up to 38% off. My templates are on sale, the courses are on sale, and there are 4 new add-on Show It templates that I just launched too. And there's more to it than that, but just go check it out, elizabethmccravey.com/BF, short for Black Friday. You can get all the details there. The sale ends December 3rd.